I'm 77 years old. 77. And the thing I need to tell you right now, before I say anything else, is that I am not going to sugarcoat a single word of this. We don't have time left for sugarcoating. The average man who makes it to 65 has, statistically, about 16 years left. Just 16. I know that sounds abstract when you're in your 50s, still working, still running, still believing the best is somewhere just over the next horizon. But I'm here. I'm past that marker. And let me tell you what those 16 years actually look like from the inside. The first 5 or 6 are usually good if you've been careful. But the data doesn't lie. Most men will spend somewhere between 4 and 8 of those final years managing a decline, a diagnosis, a loss of independence, or a physical limitation that no retirement calculator ever puts a number next to. So here's the question I want to place in front of you. What are you actually building? Not saving, not preserving, building. Because I spent most of my life confusing those two words. I am Dan Wall, and understanding the difference between them was the single shift that changed the entire second half of my life. I want to share something today about the 4 levels of retirement income. This is something that took me until I was 68 years old to understand, and once I did, it moved my financial life to a place I genuinely didn't think was possible. Stay with me. This is the conversation I desperately needed when I was 55. And if you want to learn how to build a freedom that ordinary numbers can't explain, subscribe to The Rich Retiree right now. My story starts back in Ohio. My father worked the same manufacturing job for 31 years. Same clock in, same handshake every Friday. He was proud of that. And the deal he believed in, the deal he raised me to carry, was simple. You work hard, you save steadily, you keep your head down, and at 65, the good years finally begin. That was the gospel I took with me. I went into insurance sales and worked with the same grit my father brought to that assembly line. I became someone people trusted with their family's financial futures. Margaret and I married in 1972. We bought the house with the oak trees and drove sensible cars. We had a financial advisor who always pointed at a compound interest chart and said, "Dan, just keep feeding this. At 65, you'll be right here." I believed the chart. I believed level 1 was the finish line. Level 1 is survival income, Social Security, a pension, or a 401k distribution. It's the floor. I believed that once I hit that floor, everything I wanted, Italy, the Amalfi Coast, Route 66, would just happen. I worked until 66, 1 year extra, just to be smart about the math. My retirement party was a Tuesday. Cake in the break room, handshakes from colleagues of 20 years. I drove home alone on a highway I'd driven 8,000 times, walked through my front door, and sat at the kitchen table. The silence was deafening. Margaret was still at work. The coffee was cold. I had saved, I had planned, I had arrived, and I realized I was trapped at level 1. I had a floor, but I had no ceiling. The first year had beauty, but reality crashed the party quickly. My right knee had been failing for years, but I'd ignored it during the grind. By the second day of walking Italian cobblestones, I was limping. Margaret had that look, the look of someone quietly calculating the cost. We came home early. The surgery, the co-pays, and the physical therapy started piling up. It wasn't a catastrophe, but it showed me that level 1 is a trap of fragility. Then came Margaret's diagnosis. She's healthy now, thank God. But that year of uncertainty showed me the true shape of my plan. One night, while she slept, I sat with a legal pad and a calculator. I wrote down the Social Security, the pension, the savings. Then I wrote down the real costs of healthcare and long-term care. The feeling in my chest was cold. The margin was thinner than the story I'd told myself for 38 years. I had spent my life preparing to stop, but I hadn't spent a single day preparing to keep building. That's when my brother-in-law, Frank, called. He was 64, nearing retirement, and had been offered a consulting gig for 2 days a week. Frank said, "Dan, they aren't paying me for my time anymore. They're paying me for my 30 years of patterns. My experience is worth more today than it ever was." That hit me like a lightning bolt. There was a level 2 and a level 3 I was completely ignoring. I started making calls. I reached out to former clients, not as a salesman, but as a senior advisor. I offered to find the gaps their younger managers were missing. All 3 said yes. Within a year, I had a 15-hour-a-week practice. This is level 2, expertise income. It's active, but it's based on wisdom, not labor. It was new money, surplus I could invest aggressively. The miracle wasn't just the money, it was the energy. I felt alive again. The part of us that solves problems doesn't want to retire, it just wants different terms. This led me to level 3, surplus wealth, where your new income feeds investments that protect you from inflation or any health crisis. Here is the secret. Stop seeing yourself as someone who is finished. Your knowledge is a rare asset. There are younger business owners starving for the judgment you take for granted. If you build this second layer of income, everything changes. You have a cushion. You have a reason to stay sharp. Level 1 is where you worry. Level 2 and 3 are where you breathe. This finally brought me to level 4, legacy and total freedom. My net worth at 72 is higher than I ever dreamed, simply because I refused to stop being a builder. Last spring, Margaret and I went back to Italy. This time we had the right shoes, no agenda, and no financial anxiety. I felt like I had won, not against the market, but against the version of myself that almost gave up at 65. I'm 77. Time is not theoretical for me. The moment you decide your building years are over, they are over. But the moment you decide there is still something to build, the path appears. Don't wait to be ready. Start small. Start this week, because 77 arrives faster than any summer you've ever lived through. I want you to look back at a second half of life that was just as generative as the first. That is the one thing nobody told me, and it's the one thing I'm telling you now. If you're ready to move past level 1, subscribe to The Rich Retiree. I am Dan Wall, and I'll see you in the next video.